is deceit, right? In fact, if you go to some of the oldest Qurans, which do not have chapters and verses, or they have chapters, not verses, you'll read that it says war is a game of deceit. And the term occurs in the titles of works on military art as well as in their text. So this is a military term. So Islamic debate is a military art. It's a form of warfare, right? And notice they have here that again, this the early works. That this is a very early was very early in the literature. Now notice the first and the simplest TL were presumably thought out by interested parties who felt the need for them, such as merchants in particular. But it was quite beyond them to invent and apply the more complicated forms of deception, the complicated verbal tactics, the verbal hiyal. They had to have recourse to specialists in religious law. So the religious people, the priests of Islam, the jurists, figured it out for them. And these last did not hesitate to supply the need. So the jurists, the imams of Islam, were the ones who created these forms of legal deceit. Uh, Thaddeus, do you routinely go to your local priest and say, "Hey, I want to cheat the shopkeeper. Actually, no, I own a shop. I want to cheat my customers. Can you, Father Brown, can you help me cheat my customers with legal tricks and words I can say to deceive my customers to get more money out of them, to cheat them on the
Uh,
contracts?" Does your priest help you with that?
strangely, yeah, strangely, I've never thought to go to a priest or pastor to ask them how to get around the law. Strange stuff. I guess I'm missing.
I
I guess
know.
I'm missing out. I mean, I could be finding out how to make more money or whatever.
I know you could learn how to cheat people if you just went to your priest, but I've never heard of it myself. Hey guys, at your churches, does your priest help the shopkeepers deceive their customers? Is there anything like that? How to break the law, write deceptive contracts? Does any of that happen at your local parish? I mean, it's probably Baptists that do this. I'm guessing, because Baptists have shifty eyes. Just kidding, right, guys? So yeah, unfortunately, understand imams are there for we can infer from this. Would I be correct in stating that is that this tells us imams are trained to lie?
Absolutely. Quick comment from Carol here, asking about the hadith for one of the companions, knowing that someone said is true because of his chest heaving. Emotion is weightier than logic. I don't actually know what that hadith is offhand, but if someone wants to find that and put it in the chat, I'll be happy to bring it up on screen.
Yeah, I don't know that hadith either, but she's right about emotion is more important. Allahu Akbar, Allah will save you. You know, Ramadan is the greatest. Oh, Allah, oh God, it is purely emotional. It is a performance. Okay, beautification of
Absolutely.
speech. Remember, beautification. Beautiful speech is true.
Well,
Ugly
and
speech is
absolutely. I
false.
mean, if
Yep.
you listen to Muslims who are actually, not apologists and just ordinary Muslims trying to convince you to believe in Islam, they'll usually point you to someone reading the Quran in a very dramatic performance and say, "Isn't this so beautiful? Doesn't that prove that Islam is true?"
Correct. Performative actions of that is considered therefore truth. Yes, and that's remember, this is the science of rhetoric, embellishment and beautification of speech. If it is beautiful, it is true. That is really the standard. Because the pinnacle of truth within Islam is speech, not evidence. Right? The pinnacle of evidence within Islam is beautiful speech, right? Not evidence the way that we see it within the West in terms of proper evidence. Now, a special branch of Hiyal is concerned with the evasion of obligations undertaken under oath. Now, this, I think, should give you warning here. A branch of Hiyal is concerned with the evasion of obligations undertaken under oath, designed to evade oaths, promises, and contracts.
Yeah, well, this is especially interesting actually because if you don't make an oath, then you don't even need to try to do something special to make sure you don't violate the letter of it. You can just flat out lie if you don't do it under oath. But then if you're under oath, in theory that's supposed to be unbreakable. But then there's a whole branch of how to lie to get around your oaths as well. Crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
you can ask your imam to help you lie. Hey, I need to lie. Can you help me? So now Machiavelli. So anyway, so they speak here of, okay, they are Machiavellian tricks. Machiavellian tricks. Hiel. Now Machiavelli, the prince, he's known as someone who obviously taught people how to lie, deceive, manipulate, how to use influence. Right? Machiavelli's name is pretty much a dirty word. If someone is Machiavellian, they're a manipulator and a deceiver, someone who is after power. So now notice Hiel is in the context of Machiavellian tricks used to recruit new adherents and detach them from their religion. Dawa.
Yes, dull, and otherwise defined.
Correct. So understand, Dawa is Hiel. Hiel is Machiavellian. Right. So understand we're dealing here with this is an Encyclopedia of Islam, volume 2, page 170, in the book, page 184 in the PDF itself. Right. So when you see this, one reference will be the page in the book and the other page will be on the PDF. Right. Now, Dawah is political propaganda. Let's have a look here. Encyclopedia of Islam again. The Caliph commissioned disputants and controversialists, Jadaliyun, to carry on a parallel campaign by means of the pen. Right? So they hired disputants. So disputants would be people who dispute. Notice when you dispute something, if I say, well, the Encyclopedia of Islam says, and then Alfonso comes along, the Encyclopedia of Islam is wrong. Oh, you're just a Jew who hates Muslims, and you're just trying to give the land back to Israel because you hate the Palestinians. You evil Jew. You Mossad pays you. That is disputation. That is not presentation of fact. Sahih Machiavelli. Yeah, Machiavelli. Yeah, exactly. Disputation is where you try to undermine. Okay. And in fact, if I go through some of the sources, you'll find they actually literally do talk of you try to undermine the opponent or undermine his arguments. And this is what they do, right? They are disputants. They dispute everything. They don't provide evidence. They don't provide positive evidence. They try to negatively undermine whatever you are saying, undermine your source, undermine your character, undermine your argument, and to divert, deflect, and do anything but deal with the topic. Would you agree with me, Thaddeus?
Yeah, absolutely. We would say that, well, that's really silly to attack the person giving the argument as a logical fallacy and so on and so forth. But we have to remember that Islam is based on emotions. Islam is based on good rhetoric. So if you can get the person who is giving the argument to get angry at you or to be distracted and lose their train of thought or whatever the case may be, then that's winning in the mind of
Yes.
the Muslim.
Yeah, it's designed to convince, not to find truth, but to win. Right? So let's continue. So propaganda. Notice here, Dawah, the house of Dawah. Notice you've heard of the Dar al-Islam, the Dar al-Harb. Now you have the Dar al-Dawah, the house of Dawah, the house of propaganda. Notice Dawah is also defined as propaganda. Who else used propaganda? Let's see names like Hitler, Marx, Lenin, Pol Pot, North Korea, whoever's in charge there today. Uh, am I correct in stating so, Thaddeus?
Uh huh. And Muslims always tell us when we point out a problem in the Quran, they're like, well, Arabic is a very rich language. Words have multiple meanings. You have to look at all the meanings at the same time. And that's what's so miraculous about the Quran is that all the meanings work together. Well, right here, we got dawah defined as a call or invitation, but we also have it defined as propaganda. And they tell us all these terms have to work together at the same time to get the full understanding of the term. So take your pick,
Yeah.
Muslims.
Now, I do want to notice dawah, adjective, call, invitation. Notice that, unfortunately, typically in a dictionary, the primary meaning comes first, right? So take the word light. Does it mean to light a fire? Does it mean the suitcase doesn't weigh a lot, it's very light? Or the word light, it's very light outside. Or there's a light in my ceiling, right? So you can have four different meanings of the word light, none of which is a primary meaning until you get to a context, right? However, with technical terms like this, typically in a dictionary, at least in the Western world where we use logic, I hope, the primary meaning comes first, and then they will list secondary and tertiary meanings. Unfortunately, very often what happens in the Encyclopedia of Islam, because a portion of it is written by Muslim scholars who are apologists, right? They will cite the secondary and tertiary and fourth level meanings first, and then they'll bury the primary meaning at the bottom, hoping you don't read down to row 12, right? It's like putting the primary meaning on page 8 of the Google search, right? It's what they've done because no one goes past page 1 on Google, right? So notice when they say call or invitation, this is not evangelization. Evangelization is a very specific technical word which means to preach the gospel. Would that be correct? At least broadly correct, that is.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sometimes takes on other meanings, but there is actually a real difference here. It's not really, trying to convince someone of
Evangelize.
the truth of Islam. It's inviting them, and if they accept it, great. And if they don't, well, then it's time to go to step two, which is to fight against them.
Correct. Now, notice this is entirely secular. Call and invitation is entirely secular. So, for instance, if I call, oh, there's Tommy Robinson. Hey, Romy Tobinson, because we shouldn't say that name on YouTube, right? YouTube. Hey, Romy Tobinson, I'm giving you a call because I'm inviting you over to come and get drunk at my house. You know, so come and get drunk. I've invited the boys. We've got 15 kegs and we've got a bottle of rum each. So let's do that. Literally is how dawah can be utilized. It is entirely secular. Call or invitation. Come over, get drunk. That is not a religious connotation. It is not a religious word. It is entirely secular. Notice though, propaganda and pretension. Pretension is to pretend. Pretense, to lie, to deceive. Once again, you're dealing with state propaganda and deception. Any comment, Thaddeus?
Not directly related, but myself said dawa is literally
Yes.
gaslighting, and that's a
Yes.
very important part of it. They repeat the same thing over and over and over again, with the hope that if they say it enough times, then you'll start to believe it.
Correct. Actually, he is very, very true. It is gaslighting. It quite literally is gaslighting. In fact, that is called. In fact, it's called verbal magic. They call it samiyya. I believe that the correct term is samiyya, where you utilize this very confident way of speaking, which will cause doubt in the other person. It's verbal magic. We would call it today NLP, right? So these guys, they perfected that a long time ago. It's supposed to be a form of white magic. Now, I want to introduce you to a word called heuristic. Okay, the word heuristic. Now, the closest that we have within the Western world, within our Western set of concepts, within our science, right, is a term called heuristic. Fully speaking, heuristic dialectic, right? So, heuristic from Greek eristikos, fond of wrangling, fond of disputing, haggling, never being content with something, but focusing on details, quibbling, constantly hassling over stupid things. Argumentation that makes successful disputation an end in itself rather than a means of approaching truth. You guys should be familiar with this from Muslims on debates and in the comments. Such argumentation reduces philosophical inquiry to a rhetorical exercise. Heuristic argument is closely associated with the Greek sophists. So, heuristic dialectic. So, for instance, if you look at Hegel, who these philosophers introduced the concept of dialectic, Marx borrowed this. So, you've got thesis, antithesis, and then supposedly these two clash, and then you have a synthesis. Of course, we know that doesn't happen. Okay, what you've got is when you have group A that doesn't like group B and they clash, one side dies and the other side walks away victorious. That's pretty much how that works out. That's why Marxism is predicated on violence, right? So there's no synthesis that happens. There's only domination. There's only winning, right? And so correctly, the philosopher Schopenhauer has written on this, and he actually describes 38 techniques within his writings where he speaks of heuristic dialectic, right? Which is this form of wrangling, this fight, how to defeat logos, how to defeat the truth, the tricks that these sophists use. He's got 38 of them and he's listed. And the English versions are more interesting than the Germans because the English ones translate and further expand upon. So this is Schopenhauer who further spoke about this, and you can learn a lot about this by reading from Schopenhauer's heuristic dialectic. And you'll find that they tend to use the same few tricks over and over and over. You don't have to know all 38. Now, dawah, call, invitation, propaganda, or pretense. Okay? Now, notice the Abbasids used propaganda for a member of the Prophet's family. And the Ismailis, okay, Ismaili dawah is propaganda for the Imam who alone can give mankind good advice. But understand, Islam says that only we, the scholars, right? Have you consulted a scholar? Well, only the scholars can give you good advice, can tell you what to do, right? So the Abbasids took the idea of dawah and they used it as propaganda to spread the message of the Prophet. And of course, don't forget, well, I'll leave it at that. Your thoughts, Thaddeus?
Faisal said, "Sheesh, put on your tinfoil hat already." Can you just inform Faisal what the source of this material is? Is it
This is
an
from your
internet
Islamic
blog
sources.
or?
This is actually from the third most read book in Islam, okay? From the most highly regarded scholar in Islam after Muhammad himself. This guy is ranked higher than even the four imams who established the four schools of jurisprudence. Faisal, as we know, you are too much of a coward to actually come up and read through these things with us to discuss them. We can ask you questions if you know so much. But yes, I do suggest people put in their tinfoil hat because Islam is full of such nonsense. So yeah, we're going through your Islamic sources. If you have any better sources, please drop them in the comments and we will refer to those. Notice in its political religious sense, so Islam is a political religion. Dawah denotes the invitation to adopt the cause of some individual or family, claiming the right to the imamate over the Muslims. So Dawah was used to push one group over another. It's for political reasons. This is political propaganda. It is to rally the troops, to rally for a cause. This is the same as we would use political propaganda today. So this is how it was used. It was developed by the Ismailis, okay? And so understand all of these ideas, and this is what dawah is. It is merely state propaganda. Dawahganda, the theocratic empire. Now, the theocratic state is based on monotheism, right? You want to attract the greatest possible number of people to this idea and then give power to their representatives. Does that sound political to you, Thaddeus?
It does.
So the propaganda was used for this purpose. Okay, so propaganda used for this purpose is called dawah. Yeah, so dawah is political propaganda for a political cause to establish the caliphate. So they're not inviting you to Islam because they want to evangelize you and introduce you to the love of God and Jesus, introduce you to the good news, the gospel. They want to recruit you to a cause and have you give power to those in charge. That is a political aim. State propaganda to enable a bureaucracy. Does that make sense, Thaddeus?
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I'll just repeat what I said earlier. Someone could say that this is a different definition of the same word, that they're unrelated, but that's not what Muslims ever say when we go to the Quran and we point out a passage that doesn't seem to make any sense. They say you got to look at every meaning of the term, that's how Arabic works, that every meaning are compatible. They all, every time you use it, it's looking at every meaning and they all come together somehow. So the call to bring people into Islam and the political propaganda, they're one and the same.
Correct. And notice propaganda, the dawah is one of the means of founding a new empire. Notice dawah is propaganda. Dawah is one of the means of founding a new empire. So interesting, buddy. So Faisal is back again. I'll entertain him for a second.
I was going to ignore this, but since
Yeah.
you're reading it, go ahead.
That you're wrong in the verse that supposedly means we are moon worshipping pagans does not mean I'm deceiving you. You're simply wrong. Now notice, what is he doing? He's deflecting onto a completely separate topic. This is disputation. This is Islamic disputation. Notice he's a coward. He will never meet me. Sourface Hussein, Jason Boring, and this guy have given me every excuse under the sun. All I want to do is take their own text from their major scholars, the very, very absolute pinnacle of the scholars in Islam, and just read them together and have them comment. And they refuse because they're cowards. They're frightened. They're terrified of me. Okay? So now you're seeing an example of this kind of disputation, in effect, deflection. Thaddeus, up to you, yeah?
Yeah, now that I know why you brought that up, that is actually really good because he's demonstrating what they did. He's trying to change the subject. He's trying to go back to a previous presentation
Yeah.
And make it about something else other than what we're talking about here. And he did add, you're trying to argue that debate is not about warfare, yet you call me a coward, a word that would be used in conflict. So I think he's agreeing that the Islamic definition of debate is warfare.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be
So,
what he
and you're
just
seeing the
did.
gaslighting. Now you're seeing the gaslighting that's happening. It literally is gaslighting. So, yeah, if you can bring us the correct sources, the proper academic and Islamic sources from your top scholars that correctly define these words, if I'm wrong, please do so from an academic, Islamic, scientific point of view, right? That would be because Islam is the religion of science, right?
And then Philip putting on his Muslim hat says, just because it's in, I'll read it as our sources, doesn't mean we actually believe this stuff. Sheesh. And I brought this up because this is the other defense that Muslims go to, that, oh, that scholar's wrong. We don't believe that. That's not real Islam. And, I always phrase this as Islam, the religion where all the scholars are wrong, all the sources are lies. You can't trust anything, and yet it's true.
Islam is true.
Go figure.
Yeah, the sources are wrong. The sources are mistaken. The scholars make mistakes. The scholars are liars. The scholars are wrong. Islam is true. Yeah, every single scholar in Islam, every scholar. Sahih Bukhari is actually Da'if Bukhari, but it's all true. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, he's not. This is not Alonzo, whoever's asking. No, Faisal is just another loser. So,
Yeah, definitely not the same guy.
yeah. So notice Abbasid, okay, under the Abbasids, Dawah was, strictly speaking, propaganda. Right. So notice all of the associations with Dawah with state propaganda. Right. Now, don't forget, many of the entries within the Encyclopedia of Islam are written by Islamic scholars who also act as apologists for Islam. You need to understand this as well. So you've got to kind of sometimes read between the lines or go to additional sources which give you additional context. So there's a little bit of euphemistic wording going on, but understand Dawah is state propaganda. Right? So I'm just giving you the highlights here. This is all propaganda. Right. Now, let's have a look at these Machiavellian tricks here to recruit new adherents and detach them from their religion. So really, they want to detach you from a new religion, have you support their cause, and establish a new empire. This is entirely a political aim. It is state propaganda for a political aim. So you're a propagandist for the state. You're indoctrinated as a propagandist. That's what a Dawa dummy is. These dawahgandists are indoctrinated. Now let's have a look at Machiavellian. Machiavellianism is one of the traits in the dark triad model, along with psychopathy and narcissism. Isn't that fascinating? Machiavellianism is associated with being a psychopath and being a narcissist, right? In the field of personality psychology, Machiavellianism is a personality trait centered on manipulativeness, callousness, and indifference to morality. I think we're running short of positive definitions here, Thaddeus. We're not finding a single one.
Well, I think maybe the best light you can cast Machiavelli in is the phrase he's known for, that the ends justify the means. And that's about as positive as you can get, I'd say.
Well, actually, that is one of the pillars of the Sharia. Quite literally, the ends justify the means, or the ends are more important than the means, is literally one of the pillars of Islamic law. That quite literally so. When did the Abbasid Caliphate start? 750 or 850? Just remind me. So, for 1 century after Muhammad died, you had the Umayyads, and I think the Abbasids took over in 850, which means that the major works on Hiyal were already written in the first 70 years of Islam.
Yeah, I think the
So it falls under the
transition is,
Umayyads.
around the year 800 or so, but um, probably definitively established as the dominant force by
Middle of the
850, I'd
ninth
say.
century. I believe it's middle of the
Yep.
ninth century. So 750 to 850, looking at the Umayyads, more or less. I've got it in my notes somewhere. We can check that. Anyone can look it up. But this was already established under the Umayyads. The Abbasids simply just turned it up to 11. They just cranked it up and they made it heavily. Not that it wasn't political before. They just refined it. They just poured a lot of resources into it. So now notice Faisal is trying to be foolish again. I think we'll ignore him at this point, right? But notice if you can now notice he's trying to
Actually, this is a really good example
again
because
get going.
we weren't. He's asking if Machiavelli is part of Islamic studies. Well, this is a Islamic source that Lloyd has quoted, but no, we're not talking about Machiavelli the person. We're talking about the type of ideas that he supported, which now bear his name. We're not actually talking about the person. So he's trying to distract by saying he was a devout Catholic, blah blah blah. well, which is not true, by the way. But even if he was, that's entirely irrelevant because we're talking about the type of techniques that bear his name, not the person.
Right. So notice it's interesting. I've asked you for specific. Now notice you've got these broad sort of statements, these assertions that are made. So it's rhetoric. It is not logic. There is no evidence presented. We want evidence. I want evidence from a major source in Islam or a major source within academia that is trusted. This is the single most trusted academic source on Islam on earth. There is nothing more advanced and more relied upon than this. Right? This is the Encyclopedia of Islam, and then of course you've got random Muslim 69, right, who's now again outranks all Islamic scholars, which is always fascinating. So I need to stop sharing for a moment, and then I need to share again with audio. Yeah, so that I can play this very, very short video on this Islamic scholar talking about lying. If you can just share me again, thanks. So this is I think it's a 1 or 2 minute video. It's a minute long, which I got from Adam Seeker. Thanks very much, Adam. On this Muslim man who tricks his Jewish neighbor, and this guy's very proud of the lie in the story, which should leave you very concerned about the dishonesty that is rife and obligatory within Islam.
كان في واحد مسلم بجوار واحد يهودي، فالمسلم كان يرى من اليهودي ده يعني شيء من الطيبة ولو كانت بسيطة، فكان نفسه بأي طريقة ان هو يبتكر طريقة يخليه يسلم بيها. فراح كلمه وقال له: يا فلان، يعني أليس لك حاجة في الإسلام؟ أنت ما نفسكش تسلم؟ قال: والله ما يمنعني من الإسلام إلا أني أحب شرب الخمر. أنا فعلا نفسي أسلم من زمان، بس أنا الحاجة الوحيدة اللي منعاني إن أنا مدمن خمر. فالمسلم ابتكر له طريقة، قال له: خلاص أسلم واشرب الخمر براحتك. طبعا المسلم مش قصده كده طبعا، فقال له: أسلم واشرب الخمر. قال له: خلاص ماشي. فاليهودي قال: أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. فقال له المسلم: الآن أصبحت مسلما، فإن شربت الخمر طبقنا عليك حد الخمر، وإن ارتدت عن دين الله قتلناك. فثبت الرجل على دينه ولم يشرب الخمر أبدا بعد ذلك. ودي كانت حيلة جميلة من هذا المسلم.
Isn't that just charming, Thaddeus?
Yeah, this is a very good plan. Lie to him, trick him, and then keep him in Islam by threat of execution.
Yeah, threaten to punish him and threaten to execute him if he does anything other than, yeah. So understand this guy. So obviously this is not a real Muslim, as we're soon going to find out. So clearly this, whatever, this is Islam. It is fully legal. Now understand, in Islamic law, it is not only legal to lie to you, it is obligatory. Now understand, earlier in the beginning, Thaddeus, you stated that lying is allowed under some circumstances. Now technically they do say that in the wording here and there. However, it's also obligatory to lie. Now how do you square that circle?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all the ends justify the means, right? So if the ends
Correct.
are good, then you're allowed to lie, and if the ends are obligatory, then it's obligatory to lie.
Exactly. And
كان في واحد مسلم
sorry, so let me continue here.
بجوار
Oops. Right. So again, Machiavellian, using clever but dishonest methods that deceive people so that you can win power or control. This is for political ends. Machiavellian relates here to political ends. Notice: sly, devious, calculating, crafty, cunning, backdoor, calculating, cunning, devious. Again, no positive connotations, right? All of this is Islam. This is entirely negative connotations. Let's talk about permissible war crimes. Okay, so let's have a look here. This is from Da'if Muslim, book 32, hadith 3. Okay, also book 19, hadith 4294. And the related Quran verse is Quran 9:29. Okay, now let's see. Now, the Muslims against the disbelievers: if they refuse to accept Islam, demand from them the jizya. If they agree to pay, accept it and hold off your hand. If they refuse to pay, seek Allah's help and fight them. When you lay siege to a fort and the besieged appeal to you for protection in the name of Allah and His Prophet, do not accord them the guarantee of Allah and His Prophet. Do not give them protection under the name of Allah and His Prophet. Accord to them your own guarantee and the guarantee of your companions. For it is a lesser sin that the security given by you, the promise that you made, be disregarded, that you break your promise, than that the security granted in the name of Allah and His Prophet be violated. When you besiege a fort and the besieged want you to let them out in accordance with Allah's command, do not let them come out in accordance with His command, but do so at your own command, for you do not know whether or not you'll be able to carry out Allah's behest with regard to them. In other words, if you're going to break an oath, break a promise, break an agreement, and slaughter prisoners of war, don't promise in the name of Allah, give them your word, because then you can break your word as a lesser sin than. But of course, we can go into the doctrine of jihad, the laws on jihad, and it will state that if you do kill them, it is not a sin. If you do kill them, you've done nothing wrong. So yeah. Yes, Faisal, I'm calling you a loser because you're a loser. And because, yes, yeah, I think the fact of you refusing, you and all of your friends for that matter, all of you refusing to meet with me to just read through your own sources and discuss them, I'd say that's cowardice. Yes, thank you. Now, eristic versus dialectic, right? So, Encyclopedia of Islam, Volume 10, the Jadaliyya is derived from the Arabic Romanized Jadal, literally controversy, meaning dialectic. A better translation would be disputationist, okay, or propagandist, as we've seen, right? Dialectic is not logos. Understand, dialectic is the clash of two opposing ideas. That's the Hegelian dialectic that Marx adopted in terms of Marxism, and we know how wonderful Marxism was for the world. The dialectical method is a discourse between two or more people holding different viewpoints. This would be often violently opposing viewpoints about a subject, but wishing to establish the truth through reasoned argumentation. Contrasted with, now even dialectic is not actually so, right? Dialectic actually leads to a clash. It leads to a clash. And then the one who argues the loudest, the hardest, the one with the most force wins. Contrasted with eristic, which refers to argument that aims to dispute rather than search for truth. In the original Republic by Plato, a distinction is made between dialectic and eristic. The former is argument made in good faith with the goal of apprehending the truth. Again, this would be disputed by other philosophers. Okay, when you look at Hegel and you look at Marx, dialectic is not positive. Dialectic is warfare, effectively. The clash of two ideas, and usually you fight on the battlefield or you fight using propaganda to win. The latter is argument as performance with the goal of tearing down one's opponent. Now, notice, think of Muhammad Niqab when he was doing his debate with David Wood. Performance. Think the performance was what was important to the audience, not the content, not the facts. Your thoughts, Thaddeus?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty obvious because, Hijab would get up there and he'd basically say the exact same thing David had just said. And then the audience would go crazy, the Muslim audience, go crazy, clap. Yeah, you refuted David. You just said the same thing, but you said it so much more dramatically. We believe you.
Yeah, exactly. But also the performance, right? The way that they speak, right? So, yeah, eristic versus dialectic. So here we go. Now, Schopenhauer, okay? According to Plato, the eristic style did not constitute a method of argument, because to argue eristically is to consciously use fallacious arguments. So there we go. See, to argue eristically is to consciously use false arguments, false argumentation. Schopenhauer, that I mentioned earlier, the philosopher Schopenhauer, who discusses eristic dialectic, considers that only logic pursues truth. For him, dialectic, sophistry, and eristic have no objective truth, but only the appearance of truth. That's why it's sophist. He believed that they do not seek truth, but rather victory. And we've just realized from our discussion so far within the Islamic definitions that dawah leads to victory because it is military tactics, military strategy, military propaganda. I think we've covered that. And this now is within Western law, this at least within Western science and Western understanding of philosophy, this is what it is. It confirms that this is rather just political propaganda. Your thoughts, Thaddeus?
Yeah, well, Faisal's whining and crying in the chat here. But I made it pretty simple to him. If he thinks that we're wrong about what Islam teaches, he can give us a direct source that contradicts us. And instead of doing that, he's whining and crying about how he wants us to give examples from the monotheism presentation where he used these tactics. Whether he used them or not is irrelevant. What is relevant is that these are the tactics taught by Islam.
Yeah. Yeah, if he wants to prove us wrong, he's welcome to put together a presentation, make a video. We'll be happy to watch it, or you can come on live and discuss it. You can bring his sources. And Faisal, you need a hug. You really, really do. So here's a hug, buddy. Here, feel better, man. You know. So yeah, yeah. So notice this is not about seeking the truth, but seeking victory. And don't forget, the Islamic sources have just confirmed that very same thing for us. Let's have a look at artifice again. Suitable for achieving a particular end, an expedient, a trick, false or insincere behavior. That is artifice, achieving the end of victory. Okay, it is tactics, right? Now, artifice again, deception or trickery. The purchaser believed that the product was new only by artifice of the seller. Contrive, to make up, to achieve an end, especially by deceiving. A stratagem or a ruse. Ruses are used to deceive. Again, so we understand that this idea of artifice, clever expedient, a stratagem, crafty or subtle deception, skill, cleverness, skillfully contrived device. Notice they are using skillfully contrived language to win. Right, and this is all that it is about. It's really just state propaganda, clever trick, strategist, trickery, guile, craftiness, contrivance. This is multiple different dictionaries that I'm utilizing here. You'll notice they all say the same thing: subterfuge, deception, deceit, duplicity, trickery, cunning, wile, clever trick or stratagem in the context of subterfuge. Right, again, we've come through this: lies, lying, hypocrisy, a crock of poop. Right, so now we need to go to, so what I can do is actually I'm going to go to, let me briefly go to, let me go to the reliance of the traveler. So I want to bring up this. Okay, now what I'm doing right now, tale bearing. What I'm doing is tale bearing, and Muslims are not supposed to believe tale bearers. Someone who brings tales, okay, someone who says nasty things about Islam. Tale bearing is not limited to that, but rather consists of revealing anything whose disclosure is resented. Muslims must fight against this. Okay.
So if you don't like what it says, then it's forbidden. That's what you're telling me?
Yeah. Let's see a little further here. Now, notice within the Islamic definition of tale bearing, revealing something confidential whose disclosure is resented. A person should not speak of anything he notices about people besides that which benefits a Muslim. Keep that in mind. Right. Besides what benefits a Muslim. Now notice here from George Orwell's 1984. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed history and became truth. Let's have a look here. The Muslim is instructed, disbelieve it, for tale bearers are corrupt. Their information is unacceptable. Hate him for the sake of Allah. He is detestable in Allah's sight. Hating for the sake of Allah Most High is obligatory. Your thoughts there, Thaddeus?
I mean, I think that's pretty straightforward there, that hating is obligatory.
Yeah.
As long as I mean, not just generalized hating, but hating the right things is obligatory.
Yeah, exactly. So let's have a quick read through the discussion on lying within Islam. So notice within Islamic law, this is again, now in the reliance of the traveler, this is the most popular, right? This is the most known and the most available, the most commonly read Islamic law, sharia and fiqh manual in the world. And it has a chapter on lying, okay? Sadly, it's not a chapter saying don't lie, it's a chapter on how to lie. And because they talk about permissible lying. I thought Islam doesn't allow lying, but well, it tells us lying is permissible.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there, Lloyd. The very first sentence does say "don't lie," and then the rest is how to get around that. But it does have one sentence that says "don't lie," so it is slightly about not lying.
Thunderous One says, "Good to see you guys here, and I ain't lying, dude. Unless you send us $50,000 each on PayPal, I don't believe you. Talk is cheap, man. Talk is cheap." Right. So yeah, prove that you're not lying. So let me see. Faisal doesn't know that Machiavelli was influenced by an Andalusian Muslim called Ibn Rushd. Yeah. Well, I was about to. Yeah, I was busy looking up that at one point, and I decided not to go there. But yeah. Revealing the truth about Islam doesn't benefit Muslims. Therefore, it's Islamophobic. Okay. Yeah. So now notice Muhammad said, "He who settles disagreements between people to bring about good," this is, of course, the Islamic sharia definition of good, the legal definition of good, "or says something commendable, is not a liar." So, thanks, guys. Yeah. So, notice when you say something that Islam considers good, you're not a liar. So, if you say something nice about Muhammad, even if it's not true, it is commendable, and therefore you're not a liar, because you see, you're saying something beautiful, you're making your speech beautiful, and therefore it is true, therefore it's not a lie. So yes, we're going to go into don't lie, but here's a list of situations in which you can lie. Oh yeah, let's
Yeah,
have a
I
look.
think that's basically what the chapter of reliance
Yeah,
is. First
so I'll run
sentence,
through
don't
this.
lie. The rest of the chapter, here's all the reasons you can lie.
Yeah, oh, it's not real lying. Gedalia says, yeah, it's permissible lying, but not real lying. So no, we're going to get to the real lying in a minute. So I did not hear him permit untruth in anything people say, except for three things: war. But we've just learned that Islamic debate is warfare, right? If you read jihad, it's permanent warfare, right? And settling disagreements. Now, hold on. Would you say that is that we and Faisal Suktian and we and Jason Boring and we and Sourface Hussein, we disagree?
Yeah, indeed, we do.
Do we try to talk to settle disagreements?
We do.
Does that mean that you can lie under those conditions?
According to Reliance of the Traveler, yes.
Yes, according to Muhammad.
But
He
that's
did
true.
not
This is a
permit
hadith
untruth
from
except
Muhammad. So,
correct. This is directly from Muhammad. Okay, this is Bukhari and Muslim. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, three things: you can lie to settle a disagreement. So in Islam, this is an explicit statement that lying is permissible for a given interest. Oh my golly, this is from the greatest scholar in Islam, Muhammad al-Ghazali.
now just to clarify, Lloyd, that's not your interpretation. That's a direct quote. This is
Yes,
an explicit statement that lying is sometimes permissible. Is a direct quote from Reliance of the Traveler. This is not your
yeah.
interpretation.
And they put the word sometimes in there, and it's really all these wonderful euphemisms. But yeah, we're gonna get to the other book and see what else it said, because this is a summary of the other book, paraphrasing. Yeah, go on.
Oh, even if it was 100% of the time, that's still sometimes. So they're not lying, and there are occasions when it's not permissible to lie, like when it's not beneficial to do so. Then it's not
Correct.
permissible to lie when there's no benefit to it.
Yeah. So notice, I've seen it. The best analysis that I have seen is by Imam Abu Hamid Ghazali, who says speaking is a means to achieve objectives. When it is possible to achieve such an aim by lying, but not by telling the truth, it is permissible to lie if attaining the goal is permissible. Well, if attaining the goal is permissible, like Muhammad Hijab, we have to win because Islam is true, Christianity is wrong. When the purpose of lying is to circumvent someone who is preventing one from doing something permissible, right? So if attaining the goal is permissible, in other words, when the purpose of lying is to circumvent someone who is preventing one from doing something permissible. So in other words, we are doing a discussion on Islam, revealing Islam. We are trying to take people away from Islam. Muslims are to do dawah. It's an obligatory action for Muslims to bring people into Islam. In other words, to establish the empire and hand over their political power to the imams, as we read. That's what dawah is. It's to establish an empire, right? And it is obligatory to lie if the goal is obligatory. Well, Muslims have to, at the end of days, establish a caliphate. And so there you go. It is obligatory to lie if the goal is obligatory. Now, is it obligatory to have everyone worship Muhammad? At the end of the day, it is, yes. Therefore, it is obligatory to lie, right? In fact, if we go to, let me finish this, and we'll see here. I will go to the chapter later. It is not unlawful to lie when any of these aims can only be attained through lying. This is directly within the Sharia, right, within Islamic law. But he says it is religiously more precautionary to employ words that give a misleading impression. In other words, words that are deceptive, deceitful, not outright lying, but deceitful,
Mm-hmm.
not quite true.
Yeah. So it says that it's okay to lie, but if you can deceive with being technically true in your mind, that's better. So you can outright lie if you need to, but much better just deceive them and make them think that you're saying one thing when you're really saying a different thing.
Correct. See, the outward meaning of the words deceives the hearer. Hold on, deception. Well, that's a lie. There's actually a Jewish proverb that says a half truth is a whole lie. Well, they're trying to deceive you. Therefore, it is a lie. Right? So understand, the outward meaning of the words deceives the hearer. They're allowed to deceive you, and they don't consider this lying. Deception is not considered lying. So if you merely lie without intending anything else, it is not unlawful. Well, you can lie. This is perfectly lawful. Let me see if there's anything else in here.
Oh, actually, if you could scroll back up there real quick.
Sure.
Notice how deception, it defines one is not lying when you give deceptive speech. And they even put in parentheses there that by definition. So they've redefined lying. They've redefined that if you say something that you know the interpreter will, and the listener, the hearer, will interpret one way, but you in your heart, in your mind, you have some other idea in mind, which is technically true, then that's not lying. Even though you have purposely caused the person a false impression, they define it as not lying.
Yeah, you have deceived them. And actually, Arnold Nathaniel very correctly says that's equivocation. So let's have a look at equivocation here. The use of ambiguous language to conceal the truth or to avoid committing oneself. To conceal the truth, in other words, to lie. Right? In law, that's actually lying, and that's a crime. To conceal the truth, to avoid committing yourself. That's why you can't get a straight yes or no out of them. Prevarication. Understand?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you can say ambiguous language that gives a false impression, that's not lying, as far as Islam is concerned. And that's how they very deceptively redefine terms. They've decided that if they redefine what it means to lie, you can say things that are not true, but are not considered lies.
Adam Seeker very wisely says it's not a lie, it's not telling the whole truth. Well, yeah, it's a lie. You know? Yeah, and one should compare the bad consequences entailed by lying to those entailed by telling the truth. And if the consequences of telling the truth are more damaging, you are entitled to lie.
Indeed.
Right. So, yeah. So now notice as strictness, as opposed to the above dispensations, rukhsa, is to forego lying in every case where it is not legally obligatory. Oh my golly, lying is legally obligatory. So that is fascinating. So let me just find something. I need to find a reference here. I need to find a reference to obligatory lying. I want to just bring that up. It will take for some reason my PDF is getting much slower on my search. So guys, understand, Islam allows lying. It is not only halal, it is obligatory. I just want to find this reference within the index so you can see here. This is the chapter on lying within the Reliance, right? It says here, the chapter on lying, section R 8.0, and you have permissible lying, and then you have lying in circumventing between a husband and a wife, how to lie to your wife, how to lie to each other as a couple. That's fantastic.
Yeah, because Muhammad said that there's 3 occasions you can lie. We discussed the first 2, but the third is between a husband and a wife. Then they're allowed to lie to one another. I guess because their relationship won't be very good if they always tell the truth to each other, because then they'll have to say things like, you're fat and ugly and I don't want to be married to you anymore, like Muhammad kind of did to his wife.
Yeah. Now, notice in circumventing those, forbidding the permissible, right? And then there's a section called obligatory lying. Well, Islam has laws on obligatory lying, and then they've got giving misleading impression. So misleading is still lying. It is still lying. Where is our friend Faisal now to discuss this with us?
He disappeared when we started to go to other sources. He said previously he doesn't like to engage in live chat. I wonder why. Because exactly. Maybe he prefers to sit and think as long as possible before responding. I'm not sure. But Shake and Bake informed us it's not lying; it's the jurisprudence of ease. So there you
That's
go.
look, that's darura, right? Ease and necessity. So it's called good grief. Ease and necessity. There are two terms. It's I can't remember the other one, but something and darura. However, technically, yes, it is the jurisprudence of ease, but that falls under a different set of rules called azima and rukhsa. Earlier, that was defined under rukhsa. So ease is simply one of the technicalities under the doctrine of rukhsa. Understand? It was actually mentioned. I actually mentioned rukhsa earlier as one of the dispensations. So it's ease is one form of deception, one form of lying. So it's a form of lying, a form of deception, but also it's a form of easing the burden. But technically, it allows you to deceive, allows you to lie, or to deviate from standard Islamic orthodoxy. Right. So,
Before
yeah.
you go on, Adam has caught us here. He says, "So you think calling fat and ugly to your wife is better than saying you are beautiful and smart to the most ugly and brainless wife?" Answer. I'm going to say, answer me, boy. Um, I think it would be better to actually love and care about your wife so that you see her as beautiful, even if the world doesn't see her that way. And just call me crazy, though. That I think that you should actually love and care about your wife and actually think that she's beautiful.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fair enough. So, guys, Imam Ghazali's Ihya Ulum al-Din, or Ihya Ulum, there's a bunch of names for it, blah, blah, blah. You can find it on archive.org. You can find it in my archive as well that I've linked earlier. All right. So, this book is the English version. Okay. It deals with Islamic worship and divine service. Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali is unquestionably the greatest theologian of Islam. I guess they said that by accident. It's one of its noblest and most original thinkers. Born in 1058, he died in 1111. He reproduced in his religious experience all the spiritual phases developed by Islam, and we're going to learn about that. One of those is how to lie like a pro.
So Faisal confirmed that he is still here. It seems you people forgot that I'm a chronist. Well, I didn't forget that. You're the one who was disputing the accuracy of what we said. I even thought about offering, you could just say that you're a Quranist and you don't believe these sources, but instead you told us we were lying about what the sources said, we were being deceptive, etc., etc. So I didn't bring up that you're a Quranist because you were not acting like one. You were acting like you cared what these sources said and that we were saying something wrong.
He's lying about being a Quranist. That's my take. So he's simply just lying about being a Quranist. He's not a Quran-only Muslim. Besides, if he's a Quran-only Muslim, he's an apostate from Islam. He's outside of the Deen, and therefore in Saudi Arabia, go do that in Saudi Arabia. Go tell them that you're not a follower of the full follower of the Deen. You're a Quran-only Muslim, and you would be killed for that because that would be a crime. So he only speaks for himself. He's speaking purely for himself
Faisal asks when do you accuse us of being deceptive and lying? This is the game he
all the
always
time.
plays. Yeah, well, he didn't use that exact word, Lloyd. He just said that we were wearing tinfoil hats and we had no clue what we were talking about. He didn't say that we were lying.
Yeah. So Faisal, why don't you take this information and go to the Ummah and teach them about this so that you can rescue them from the lying that the other 99.999% of Muslims are unfortunately subjected to. Right? Go save them, go rescue them. Because as you know, you are just one amongst 1.6 billion. You speak only for yourself. You don't represent Islam. And besides, if you don't have orthodoxy, if you just make up the Quran's meaning as you go, then who are we to say you are correct? You see, because I can read the Quran, I can make up a meaning. How's yours any more correct than mine? You know, how is Zakir Naik any more right than you are? There's no authority. Well, Islam has authority, it has its scholars. So, yeah. So you can be safely ignored as a non-Muslim, as the non-Muslim that you are. You aren't even a Muslim. So
Sorry, I
have
was
they
on mute
tossed all
there.
the hadith? Well, the fact is that 99.9% of the hadith already have been tossed. There are millions of hadith, right? The ones that are left are only a few thousand, like 20,000 or so that are followed at most in all the collections, at most. So already 2 million have been tossed, and the 0.00001% is all that's left anyway. So he was lying about that too. Yep.
Yeah, and this is extremely deceptive here. He's practicing the type of lying that we've been talking about. Do you really think that Saudi Arabia doesn't follow the hadith? Do you really think that the version of Islam that the Saudi government supports has nothing to do with the Hadith? Of course not. It's based on the Hadith. Most of the practices of Islam are not found directly in the Quran, or at least not found in the details necessary to practice them. Of course they're following the Hadith, but you're partially correct that they don't really follow the Hadith directly. They follow the scholarly rulings on what to follow. They follow the scholarly opinion, because that's what Islam is really based on. It's not really based on the Quran or a Hadith, and especially not the Quran. It's based on the scholar's opinion about what counts, what has been abrogated, what hasn't been abrogated. What does this really mean? There's words there, but what does it really mean? How do we really apply this? So you're just speaking nonsense here. A Quran-only person cannot practice what is practiced in Saudi Arabia. You are either blind or, more likely, are intentionally deceiving, proving us correct about what Islam teaches about how to interact with non-Muslims.
He's saying it's quickly changing there. So you practice 3 prayers a day, don't you? Right? So because the Quran doesn't specify, doesn't have the names of your 5 daily prayers, unless you can give me, not a single Muslim I've spoken to in years has ever given me where in the Quran it shows 5 daily prayers and names them. It doesn't exist in the Quran. So if you can please give us that, that'll be fine, because all of your Islamic brethren, all of those Muslims, you're a non-Muslim as state, you're a non-Muslim, all of those Muslims do 5 prayers. What are you doing? Can you give us a link to your discussions where you're trying to rescue Islam from its falsehoods, like one of the major falsehoods in Islam is 5 prayers a day, right? Can you show us where that is in the Quran, please? Right? So
he'll probably come back with something like, well, the Quran tells us to pray. That's not exactly the same thing as praying 5 times a day. But I actually agree with him. It is quickly changing in Saudi Arabia, but not in the way he thinks. It's quickly changing because it's becoming a secular society as people abandon Islam as obviously false, but have to stay in it for fear out of their lives. So they've, in their hearts, abandoned Islam, but in reality, or in the appearance of the world, of course they still say they're Muslim. So that's why it's changing. It has nothing to do with your Quranist heresy.
Yeah, no. And in fact, look, he's partly out of Islam. Why don't you just go all the way? So just take that next step, buddy. Leave. So look, I've put him in timeout because he's a distractor. And
I was going to say that will be the last we say about his Quranism, because we're talking about Islam here. So if he doesn't want to talk about Islam, then he can go somewhere else. He can go to a Muslim Quranist debate if that's what he wants to talk about.
Yeah, but understand, this is exactly what, now you're seeing this kind of distractionism in practice. So, Ghazali, for instance, abrogation. He teaches us this. Abrogation fixed Muhammad's errors. The Hujjat al-Islam is Islam's foremost authority. He is the proof of Islam. He is Islam's decisive argument. You see, there were debates raging between the 4 schools, and at that time there were more than 4 schools, and now we've only got 4 official schools in Sunni Islam, right? And what happened is they were debating, and of course, he had to settle some of these debates, these theological issues, debates with Muslims, debates with Christians, right? So he formed its decisive argument. His dawah was the most powerful, the most persuasive, the most convincing. He was a mujaddid, a renewer of the faith. So according to the prophetic hadith, Mujaddid appears once every century to restore the faith of the Ummah, the Islamic community. So Imam Shafi was also such a Mujaddid. He refuted the philosophy of Ibn Sina and demonstrated that Aristotelian ethics is incompatible with Islamic ethics. Now, Western ethics, Western thinking is very much heavily derived from Aristotle. You'll find that we do rely on Aristotle. So notice there's an incompatibility there. Okay? So therefore, Aristotle emphasized that virtue is practical, and that the purpose of ethics is to become good, not merely to know. Therefore, he stands against Aristotle, and he stands against being good. Right? Let's continue. So they teach us here in Egypt today, I guess those are non-Muslims, one of the greatest renewers of the faith in history was Ghazali. Today he is known as Hujjat al-Islam, the proof of Islam, the #1 scholar after Muhammad himself. Imam al-Ghazali is known as the Hujjat, for the proof of the religion. Muhammad's word is the proof, and the book that we're going to look at now, this book, the Ihya Ulum al-Din, is the proof of Islam. His life is kept in line with the saying of the Prophet, promising renewal, blah, blah, blah. Ghazali, arguably the greatest scholar and thinker in Muslim history. Theologian, logician, jurist, and mystic. His celebrated works exercised a profound influence on Muslim intellectual history, earning him the title, The Proof of Islam. Right? So his ideas contributed a great deal towards shaping Sunni ideology. He was a Muslim saint. He became one of the most famous scholarly authorities in the whole Islamic world. So we're not dealing with a dumbass YouTube commenter, excuse my French. Right? This is by Eric Ormsby, Ghazali, The Revival of Islam, the foremost Islamic scholar. Right? Let's have a look at Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, one of the most prominent and influential philosophers, theologians, jurists, and mystics of Sunni Islam. He's one of the greatest theologians of Islam. Okay, Al-Ghazali was acclaimed as the most influential Muslim after the Prophet Muhammad. I'd say this guy has a fairly high pedigree. Would you agree, Thaddeus?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right up there with Faisal as the greatest scholars in Islamic history.
Yeah, no. So right there. So section O. So let's go back to the reliance. Examples of breaking oaths. Oh my golly, they teach you how to break oaths in Islamic law. If one swears, I will not eat this wheat, but then you make it into flour or bread and then you eat it, you've not broken your oath.
That's just such a great example there. I swear I will not eat this. Bakes it. Now I can eat it.
Yeah.
Adam did let us know that pedigrees are for dogs, not for human beings. Anyway, sorry to distract there. Let's get back to
the topic. So break oaths, eat oats, Veronica. Thank you. Yeah, break oaths, eat oats. So when a person swearing an oath includes the expression Insha'Allah before finishing the oath is not broken if he intends to provide for exceptions. So if you intend to break it given reasons and you say Insha'Allah and then you break the oath, you've not broken the oath. You see the sophistry, the word games going on here, Thaddeus.
Indeed. Ollie says that he's not a big fan of Al-Ghazali, and so there isn't much for him to refute. Well, we've gone through like 5-6 different sources all teaching the same thing. So maybe there is something for him to refute. I know he just tuned in, but maybe he should go back a little and play it at double speed or something to catch up and see how many sources we've quoted. And this isn't coming from one person. This is coming from all over in Islam.
Yeah, correct. Right. So nice. Now, for instance, let's look at Da'if Bukhari. Okay. If you ever take an oath and later on you find something else that is better, okay, expiate your oath and do what is better. In other words, break your oath. Right. So even the Prophet says, if you find something better, break your oath. So this is a commandment from Muhammad to break your oath, break your promises. He who took an oath and then found another thing better should expiate for the broken oath and do the better thing. What is better? Well, if it benefits Islam, it is better. If you lie to a kafir and then you break your oath to him, well, that's fine. So let's see. Li'an, cursing, the oath of imprecation. In law, the oath which gives a husband the possibility of accusing his wife of adultery without legal proof, because it's a crime to accuse your wife of adultery with no proof, because then the judge will then actually fine or send to jail or beat the husband as a legal punishment for making a false accusation. But there are circumstances, exceptions, legal exceptions, where a man can accuse his wife of adultery with no proof whatsoever without becoming liable to the punishment prescribed. So there is a prescribed punishment, but here you can completely get rid of that. And the possibility also of denying the paternity of a child born by the wife. This is a get out of jail free card for not paying paternity, for not paying for the kid, for not looking after your child that you got from that wife. So you accuse her of adultery and you don't have to look, you say that that's someone else's child, I don't feel like paying for it, and you divorce the wife, and this is legal.
Wild stuff.
Yeah. So an Ansari man accused his wife of committing illegal sexual intercourse. The Prophet made them take the oath of li'an and separated them from each other by divorce. So you can make her pregnant and then kick her to the curb, kick her out with no financial support just by saying, well, okay, she committed adultery. So, in other words, it's illegal to do it, but it's perfectly legal to do it. You can't do it, but yes, you can do it. Well, yes, but it's also not a big sin. In fact, it's nothing at all, according to the Prophet himself. He just made them take the oath of li'an, and then he said, here, it's okay. Toss her out with the kid, pregnant or not, whatever. Cheers, bye-bye. Narrated Ibn Umar, the Prophet, I guess that's Muhammad, right, Ali? The Prophet, would that be Muhammad? Is he important, this Prophet Muhammad guy? Is he important in Islam? I'm not sure. Let me know. The Prophet made a man and his wife carry out li'an, and the husband repudiated her child. So he makes someone pregnant, doesn't want to pay for the kid, makes this oath of li'an, tosses the woman out. So the Prophet got them separated by divorce and decided that the child belonged to the mother only. In other words, the guy walks away scot-free, doesn't pay for the wife, doesn't pay for the child. This is Islam. This is the immorality, the disgusting immorality of Islam.
Yeah, so both the husband and wife swear that, well, the husband swears that it's not his child, and the wife swears that it is the man's child. And, there's no legal penalty for either of them because they both did this oath. But in essence, the man is declared to be correct because the woman is responsible for the child on her own as a result.
Yeah. Now remember, we spoke of hiyal is designed to circumvent, to break, to get around every law, every oath, every promise, every contract. We're just seeing this in action. Li'an is a form of hiyal, one of the tactics of getting around. Literally every law in Islam, every oath, every promise can be broken. There is nothing that cannot be broken. Not a single Islamic law that cannot be circumvented or broken. Right? We've spoken about usury. Okay. We've spoken about usury. So, a double sale, which is a legal device to get around the prohibition of interest. I'm not going to get into the example here. Darura, itra, okay, idtirar, another name for darura, necessity, is a necessity, okay, necessity in law, to do some action forbidden by the law. Prohibitions of a religious character may be disregarded in cases of necessity. Necessity is very loosely defined. Very loosely defined. Like, for instance, Faisal Suktian coming on here and lying, right? That is a necessity. It's something that he must do. It's incumbent upon him to lie to us. That's a necessity. So it's not like my life was in danger. No, it's like, oh no, they're doing something that I don't like.
Yeah, so Faisal, going back to that hadith there, said, all I see is disgusting immorality of the man who did so, making a false oath. There's nothing that would indicate the Prophet approved it in any way. Are you sure about that, Faisal? Because he said that the woman alone was responsible for the child.
He approved it. He allowed it. He made it law for all time. This is your Prophet speaking on behalf of Allah, and he approved it for the rest of eternity. This is the law for your deen. Deal with it. Okay?
Yeah,
Deal
I mean, you say that the man is disgusting, and we agree. But the Prophet said that as long as he swears this oath, then he has no penalty. I mean, maybe he'll have some bad favor with Allah or whatever. The hadith doesn't say that, but maybe we could pretend that's true. But he has no legal consequence here and now. The woman is responsible for the child. He doesn't have to pay child support or anything because he swore an oath that he didn't have sex with her, so it's not his child.
And all of those things are false. It's his child. He had sex with her. He is responsible, and he's allowed to kick her to the curb with no support. He's allowed to throw her out of the house and cheers, bye-bye, not my problem. Just like that. And Muhammad said, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. It's the law. It's fantastic. It's awesome. It's great. Go do it. And of course, this idiot here, Ali, came back. I'm proud of you all for studying Islam. This means you'll eventually find the truth and then willingly convert to Islam. It's like, no, Islam is filthy, disgusting, immoral filth. And we're proving that. You see, this is again hiyal. This is gaslighting. This is denial. This guy's in denial and he's gaslighting us.
Hey, Ali, I encourage you, if Islam is true, then you shouldn't be afraid of studying other religions. You shouldn't be afraid of studying Christianity. You shouldn't be afraid of studying Buddhism. You shouldn't be afraid of studying Hinduism, whatever. You should study all the world's religions and see if Islam really stands up to scrutiny. And you should look at arguments against Islam. You should look at atheist arguments against Islam. You should look at Christian arguments against Islam, and so on and so forth. That's what we do when we study Islam. We look at Muslim arguments. We respond to Muslim arguments. We look at their best arguments, and they're not very convincing to us. I'm sorry to tell you that, in all likelihood, we've done more study of arguments for Islam. I'm not saying we've studied more on Islamic doctrine or Islamic practice or whatever, but I bet you we've studied more on arguments than you have. And I guarantee you we've studied a lot more on arguments for things other than Islam than you have. So why don't you take your own advice and go ahead and study a whole bunch of different things and find what's actually true.
Yeah. And Faisal says this was just an event. It's not law. No, anything Muhammad did is law. Anything Muhammad did is not just an event. It is legal. If Muhammad allowed it, it is legal for all time. So yeah, he's just gaslighting.
Besides, Faisal, I thought you were Quran only. So what do you care what the Hadith says? I thought that the Hadith weren't reliable.
Because he's lying about being a Quranist. We all know he's lying. He's not just a Quranist. That's just a way for him to not get into a discussion on the Hadith. Again, this is just lying. It's one of the tactics of Hiyal. It's all it is. It's like atheists telling you, but atheist isn't a belief. It's a lack of belief. Well, that's okay. Christianity is not a belief. It's just a lack of atheism. I just lack atheism. You see, I don't have atheism. It's not that I believe anything. I just lack atheism. So it's not a belief. It's a lack of atheism. You have a lack of belief. I have a lack of atheism. It's just a condition. Just a condition. Right? Okay, so notice the prohibitions of religious character may be disregarded. Offenses committed under the rule of necessity are excused with no form of punishment. Well, you can do anything and there's no punishment. Let's continue. Mudarat. Treating others in a friendly manner while concealing your true attitude towards them. Well, Muslims are required to hate you. Are you a Jew? Are you a Christian? Are you not a Muslim? Muslims are by law required to hate you. Not to dislike you, not to be mildly irritated. No, they have to hate you. That's actually the law. And those who died after spending their lives waging war against the soul, the nafs, were regarded as martyrs in the greater jihad. Now, even if he dies in his own bed, he is a shaheed who will be treated as if he has been killed fighting alongside the Prophet. Well, that's fascinating. Okay, so every believer, even if he dies in his own bed, is a shaheed who will be treated. Notice that's because Muhammad died from being poisoned. They had to make something up. But you're not a shaheed, you're not a martyr, but now suddenly you're a martyr from dying in bed. Other Imami traditions declare as martyrs those who in their lifetime who practiced mudarat. Oh my God, martyrs are people who practiced lying, who treated others in a friendly manner while concealing their true attitude towards them. You're a martyr in Islam if you lie to people about hating them. If you
because you're making that great sacrifice there. That's why you're a martyr. You're sacrificing your true feelings to give a better face for Islam. So you're a martyr because you had this inner conflict where you thought one thing and you showed another.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So guys, I will leave that there. So understand, Faisal is a martyr for lying to you. All these guys who are being nice to you, they're actually martyrs. They're going to be martyred for being nice to you when they're required under the law to hate you. Because Ibrahim, as they say, Abraham taught in the Quran 60 verse 4, if I recall, teaches that Muslims are to hate Christians and Jews and non-Muslims. This is their law. Okay, so now I'm going to, just generally people, mudarat means flattery, adulation, conformity with deceit, trickery, keeping pace with, to wrap, to conceal, or to hide. This behavior can be practiced with anybody when necessary. Sunni scholars have identified 10 categories of people who are to be regularly targeted by mudarat. Remember, mudarat is a Sunni doctrine of deception. It's another name for taqiyya, calculated deceit. Let's see the people you can lie to. Kuffar, non-Muslims, a tyrannical ruler, those whose hearts have been recently reconciled to Islam, converts, new converts. One who has deviated from the truth of Islam to win him back, a Muslim who has gone astray in imitating the non-believers, a learned scholar or scientist to benefit from his knowledge, a friend, your enemies, one's spouse, a person who may be ill by giving them hope that he will be well and that he looks well. You can lie to all of the above.
So, what was excluded here? I'm not much, right?
Don't lie to cartoon characters.
Don't lie to lifelong Muslims who you're not friends with, or enemies with, or related to. Maybe.
I'd say it's pretty comprehensive. And now, so guys, I am going to now bring up the final section. Thanks for your time so far. Hopefully, you've learned something. I will now go here. Okay.
Real quick comment
Sure.
from Philip here that I think summarized it well. You're a martyr because you sacrifice your integrity and your virtue for the father of lies. I think that's well put.
I think that is very, in fact, you lie. No, you are martyred for selling your soul. You've sold your soul. That's really saying the Shahada is actually a commercial transaction. Okay. It's actually a commercial transaction, falls under a sale. Okay. I'm just going to put Faisal in timeout again. He deserves it. All right. So, yeah. So, Faisal, I recommend you either put up or shut up. You either come online, prove your case, bring your evidence rather than your false opinion and your lies, because you're a liar and a coward. I make that statement publicly because I think we've proven that. And yeah, okay. So now let's read through Al Ghazali's book on false speaking. Okay, so this is false speaking. Now you can find different translations of it, and they'll have slightly different. Obviously, the English translations always try to fudge the facts a little bit. Okay, so
Adam corrected us. He said that the lie of a wife to a husband is not allowed, boys. Come on.
yeah,
A
yeah,
husband is allowed to lie to his wife, but the reverse isn't necessarily true. So Adam has a point there. We found a
that
category of people who are not allowed to lie.
that's exactly true. Yeah, yeah. Also, I mean, where does the Quran explicitly allow men to drive cars? It's not there. It's not explicitly said. So it, it needs to be explicitly said before they can do it, right?
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
that's bitter, right? Some forbidden innovation there, using the internet, driving cars, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Faisal, enough, Faisal. I'm going to just keep you quiet. Just put him in timeout, guys, please, just so he doesn't distract us any further. Let's have a read through standard Islam, right? False speaking, permissible. Okay, false speaking is permissible. Now they say in some cases, but we know, like, okay, in these 93 cases it's permissible. In these two, you shouldn't do it. Okay, so no, there is falsehood is not unlawful for its own sake. Lying is not unlawful. So lying by itself is not a sin. It's not wrong. To lie is not wrong in Islam. It is unlawful for the harm caused to the person with whom falsehood is spoken or harm to other people. In other words, if there's blowback against you, then it's bad. Okay? Sometimes false speaking becomes compulsory. In other words, sometimes lying is obligatory. In fact, most of the time, in fact, all the time, lying is obligatory. Okay? False speaking is better than speaking the truth. Okay? So, false speaking, lying, notice they use false. Why didn't they say lying? Lying is better than speaking the truth. You can to say falsehood in a battle or to compromise between two parties. Now, for instance, do Faisal and I disagree on anything? Would you say, Thaddeus? Do we disagree with Faisal? Does he disagree with us?
Yeah, I'd say we disagree with him a lot.
Therefore, to compromise between two parties, lying is lawful. It is lawful to lie if you disagree with someone. Well, I'd say he disagrees. Therefore, I would say he's lying. I would call him a liar to his face right now, but he's too afraid to come up and talk to us. You know, big mouth in the comment section, but won't come and talk and show sources. The Prophet did not allow false speaking except for three cases to bring a compromise between two parties. Notice it adds this one first to bring a compromise between two parties. Now, when there's a disagreement, like, oh, call it like a debate with Muhammad Niqab and David Wood, or Muslims in the comment sections, or guys in the chat making a big noise with their mouths. Okay, at the time of war, notice at the time of war is the very same as to bring a compromise between two parties to form an agreement. In other words, to get them to agree with you, because we know that hiyal is designed to win, to convince them. He who settles disputes between two parties is not a liar. So he who settles a dispute is not a liar. So if he convinces you, Islam's religion of peace, really, Mr. Christian, Islam's religion of peace, oh wow, that's so nice to know, and you go away satisfied, well, he's lied to you, but he settled the dispute. Therefore, he's not a liar, even if he's lied in every word. The lie which he speaks in war is not recorded, as war is a strategy. Well, Hiyal is a strategy of war, and they're at war because they're using warfare strategies. The lie which is spoken to settle the matters between two contending parties is not written. Allah and the angels do not record it in the book of your life. The lie which is spoken to settle the matters between two contending parties is not written. Notice they wrote that twice.
Yeah, they really want you to make sure to understand here that if you're lying to benefit Islam, if you're lying to smooth over disputes, if you're lying to make your wife feel better, perfectly fine. Words of Muhammad, words of the scholars, all agree.
Yeah, exactly. Notice there is no sin in the lie which benefits a Muslim or removes a harm from him. Well, what is a harm? Like embarrassment? Like you're losing a debate, right? To save face, to protect your honor. Well, notice to disclose an obscene act is also an obscene act. Well, was Muhammad an obscene? Well, you know what the word is, kiddie fiddler, kiddie diddler? Yes, he was. But to disclose that obscene act is also an obscene act. So what must you do? Well, you must lie, right? Remember, if it benefits Islam, you must lie. We discussed that from the Sharia, from Redefines earlier. So every man should save his life and his honor by taking recourse to falsehood. In other words, save your honor by lying, benefit Islam by lying. Okay? Do not disclose obscene acts in Islam because that is an obscene act. To tell the truth is an obscene act. Therefore, you must lie. If inquiry is made to you about a secret thing of your brother Muslim, you can lie to preserve his honor, but you can also lie to save your honor. You can lie to save your face. If harm is caused more than the benefit in case of speaking the truth, it may be avoided. So, in other words, if harm will be caused by speaking the truth, you can avoid speaking the truth. In other words, lie, lie, lie. Words carrying dual meanings may be spoken in case of a crisis. Oh, that sounds like deception. A man, by uttering a dual word, saves himself from falsehood. Oh, so deceit using ambiguity is not lying.
Amazing how all these sources seem to say the same thing, and yet this is totally not a part of Islam. This is just some random person's opinion who we shouldn't trust.
Yeah, yeah, crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff. So this doesn't go on forever, but I just want to right. So let me see here, the Book of Destructive Evils. So let me see how far this goes. I don't have to do every last word, but I think. So I suspect that is everything. Let me just change the view here. Page display.
I'll go ahead and put the link to the chat.
I think that's done. So I think I am actually done here. I think I'll finish here. I believe that I've proven my case. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it here. So deceit through ambiguity, you can lie. So notice, if you believe it benefits Islam, you can lie, which means anything can be lied about for any reason because it benefits Islam. If you think you're going to lose an argument, you're going to lose face, you can lie to save your honor. This is entirely a set of subjective criteria. In other words, you can literally lie for any reason about anything at any time. I believe that is a reasonable conclusion to draw from this, and understand Satan is the father of lies. Right? Satan is the father of lies. Islam is the religion of Satan. Now, Islam does claim that Christianity is the Din al-Batil, the religion of Satan, the empty religion, which Allah does not acknowledge. But notice they quite literally, in their most holy of books, this is a book on the ethics of Islam, on the morality of Islam, on the true spirituality of Islam, from Islam's number one scholar after Muhammad himself. And it teaches lying, lying, and lying. I'll stop there, Thunderous. Thaddeus, my bad. I call Thunderous Thaddeus and I call you Thunderous. Good grief.
Hey, no worries, no worries. So I put the link to the stream in the live chat. If no Muslims join us in the next 10 minutes or so, we'll wrap it up. But in the meantime, we have some comments here. First of all, Adam said that jokingly said he wanted to debate us, prove that we're wrong as a Muslim. But he says he'll only do that if we bring 10,000 live viewers, then we'll debate. And no doubt if we could bring 10,000, then he would say 100,000, imitating the great Zakir Naik here. We have some comments from Christians here. No liars will enter the kingdom of God. All liars will enter the paradise of Allah. And I think that's completely accurate because Allah is another name for Satan. RJ said lying to save one's honor is oxymoronic. And I would agree with that as well, that you dishonor yourself by lying. So you might be saving face in the public. You might be deceiving people and tricking them into thinking that you're a good person. But in the end, you are only hurting your own honor. And Adam has joined us to say hi.
Yeah, cool. And also, Steffi asked, do Muslims know this? Do Muslims know this? I mean, that's
I was gonna put that one up. But first, I wanted to say Tommy Robinson has refuted it. He said, but Christians worship three gods. And of course, this is the go-to. No matter what the topic is, a Muslim will bring this up. And they'll say 3 equals 1. Christianity makes no sense. Therefore, nothing we said is of any validity.
1 times 1 is equal to 1.
But this question is a real question, which I think is worth discussing. Do average Muslim laymen know about these things? And I'll let Lloyd give a more detailed response, but my thought would be yes and no. They don't know about they haven't read these exact books. They haven't read the exact laws, generally speaking, but they have absorbed the ideas. Maybe they weren't directly taught that lying to non-Muslims is okay, but they've certainly observed it. They've certainly absorbed the practice from Muslims who have the elite, the scholars who have read this. What are your thoughts, Lloyd?
Well, look, it's legal to lie about lying.
And that's the tricky part, right? Because you can never tell how much they really know.
Yeah. And also to reveal Islam to... Okay, well, I would need to bring up... Okay, this falls under slander, but Muslims who reveal this knowledge would be guilty of slander. I'm going to bring up... give me a second here. Give me a second. I'm going to show you guys a couple of things. Because this is very, very hard to figure out. Okay, it's actually not as easy as one would think. So let me just share this for a moment. There's a couple of references I'm going to show you. I need to bring up 2 or 3. So do not assist one another in sin and aggression. Okay, now sin and aggression would be giving directions to wrongdoers. For instance, teaching questions of sacred law to those learning it in bad faith. I am teaching sacred law in bad faith, and I've learned it in bad faith because I do not want the knowledge to apply it in my life. In other words, to become a Muslim. So if you're learning it not to become a Muslim, but to use it to teach others about it, then you are learning it in bad faith. So I'm learning, you guys are all learning this in bad faith. Therefore, they cannot teach it to you. So even if they did know, they're not allowed to. It's illegal. They're effectively committing treason, and the penalty is death. They are treason. It's the same penalty as apostasy. In fact, it falls under the same crime as apostasy, and they can be killed for this. So understand, they cannot say, if they did know, they cannot admit it. I would say more of them know. Look how consistent they are in the comment section. Look how consistent these arguments are. The patterns are the same. The arguments are the same. They all know this, whether explicitly or implicitly, but they all know this. So on some level they do. And remember, to save face, it's embarrassing for them. So to save face, what will they do? They will lie. So I would say that, yes, as Thaddeus, it's very similar to what Thaddeus said, but some of them, the Dawa guys, probably to some degree explicitly know it. Adam can probably fill us in more here. You might know much more than me here. But if they did know, they will lie to you because it's embarrassing to admit it. They're saving face. Or 2, they will lie about it because they're not allowed to reveal this knowledge. So, but it's part of the culture. It's inherent in the culture, and therefore it's kind of implicit knowledge. I'll stop sharing here, and I'm done.
Yeah, and Philip said they have a lot of respect for fathers and imams, so if they know, then the people following them will mimic their behavior. Did you have any thoughts on this, Adam?
Yeah, why not? Lying is allowed, and especially in Pakistan, these small type of lies are very common. For example, become a Muslim. Oh, I cannot. Offering 5-time prayer is difficult. Don't offer 5 times prayer. Just become a Muslim. Say the Shahada. but I actually have taken money on usury. Oh, doesn't matter. Allah will forgive you. Accept Islam. Okay, you're a Muslim. You don't come to the mosque. Okay, come to the mosque once a day, not 5 times a day. Once a day. Oh, we are just trying to make a habit for the people. So on and so forth, and you will see lies after lies after lies after lies in each and every aspect of dawah, whether it is to the Muslims or to the non-Muslims. It has nothing to do that you can speak lie to a non-Muslim only. No, 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 no. Even to the Muslim and among to the Muslim, it is obligatory, permissible, and basically it's a sawab. It's good deed, because what you are doing is you are trying to make a person a better Muslim. So you are actually saving his soul. So why not? So now I'm going to debate on the same topic. Why not? If you are trying to save a soul. I said that.
Yeah, well,
It's allowed.
I guess, right. I guess it depends on how you define saving a soul. If all it takes to save a soul is to say some magic words, and it doesn't matter what is in your heart, then I guess I can see why that would be okay. But then the question is, why would the true God just want you to say some magic words, and that's all he cares about?
Doesn't matter. Let's
Doesn't
look at
matter.
it from a bit different perspective. I'm a Muslim, okay? Just take me as a Muslim, okay? Think about it. Think about it from a Muslim perspective. Rather, you can think about it from a Christian perspective, and let me do the thinking and speaking from a Muslim perspective. As a Muslim, I believe that accepting Allah and Muhammad's words are the only way to get to the heaven. Even though it's a very, very bad heaven, but it is heaven, okay? So, why not lie to bring somebody to a eternal life in heaven rather than burning them in hell?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand the Muslim perspective in a sense that they look at it and they think they're doing something good because bringing someone into Islam is far more important than whether you're lying or not. Just from a Christian perspective, though, I would say that if your God is based on lies, then you're not serving God. You're not serving a being that is ultimately good. You're just serving a being that wants power, a system that's designed to bring in as many people as possible to maximize the amount of power it has.
Once again, that's perspective, right? And perspective is different based on belief system, ideology, theology, right? So your perspective and my perspective can be entirely different, and it's totally acceptable. But at the same time, like for example, when we speak about Christian belief system, we speak about the Holy Bible according to what our belief system is for the Holy Bible. And when we see the Quran, we say that according to what, i.e., it is the perfect words of Allah which came as is. Now, based on that, perfect words which Allah bestowed upon the Muslimin, what is maybe Lloyd can
Sorry,
with
you're breaking
something better.
up. Well, you're breaking
Yeah,
up.
could you
Say it
repeat
again,
that
please.
last sentence? I got everything except the last sentence.
Let me join now from a different location. Give me a sec.
Sure thing.
Sure.
And Tommy said, I don't agree with Adam. Muslims are trying to save others they try to convert others to get their rewards in paradise. And I think that's at least partially true, that they are looking after their own rewards. I don't want to judge everyone's motive. I'm sure there are Muslims who genuinely think that Islam is true and genuinely want to bring people in for those people's benefits. But I'm sure there are plenty of people who are just thinking about their own reward as well.
I will agree with Tony on certain part as well of this statement, and I will fully agree with Tony on that as well. Why? Because yes, if I bring somebody to Islam, my Jannah is confirmed, kind of, not 100%, but kind of, very very high probability of me getting a Jannah, because it will be sadaqah jariyah, one which will remain forever. Even if I have to die, that person whom I brought to Islam will going to bring forth Islam to others, and he will maybe get many people to convert to Islam as well. So for as long as he is doing good deeds according to Allah, because good deeds are what Allah said, bad deeds are what Allah said. So in both cases, I have done something which will remain eternal for the rest of the life. So once again, lying. It is very clear in the Bible, Revelation, the song which our brother Osama sings. Revelation, Revelation, 21:8, 21:8. Liars go to hell, liars go to hell. Ding dong bell, ding dong bell. But like, that's a belief system, right? This is another belief system. We should never lie, full stop, right? But now you are looking at it from a different belief system, which is the Quranic and Islamic belief system. Lie. Lie to exalt, praise, and bring forth Islam into this world. What's the problem? What's the inherent root problem if we do such a thing?
Well, the inherent problem is that that lying is a sin in and of itself. The beliefs of Islam reflect the nature of the God they serve. If their God is okay with lying and there's something wrong with lying, then that reflects an inherent deficiency of Allah. I mean, I think that I could be wrong, but I would think that most people would agree, most Muslims would agree that they shouldn't lie for no reason, which implies that there is something wrong with it. Now they think that what the reasons they do lie are worthy of it, that the ends are greater than the detriment of the lie itself, therefore it's justified. And now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that a normal Muslim would say that lying for no reason whatsoever is sinful, which then means that Islam acknowledges that there's something wrong with lying, but then their God encourages them to lie in certain circumstances. So it can't be all good. If he encourages wrong behavior in the right circumstances, then he is opportunistically good, not all good.
Don't be fooled by certain circumstances. It's obligatory to lie.
For
Under most circumstances.
for exalting Allah and Muhammad.
Correct.
Right. So Allah is exalted by lies. That expresses an inherent problem with Allah, that he thinks that a lie benefits him. The true God should not think that lies are beneficial to him in any circumstance. He should
So
be truth inherent, and anything that's a lie is by nature contradicts him.
So more of the story is that if the teaching of Allah is such bad that you have to go against the morality of the world of any time, that you have to lie to bring people to Islam, then we have a big problem in this particular ideology and theology.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings up the biggest problem as well again. That so many people who have been lied to all their lives, now when they realize that they have been lied to and they leave Islam, they become this, what I am right now, an unfazed person. Because you can only get into Islam, but you cannot get out of Islam, because Muhammad said, "Man baddal deenahu faqtuluh." Whoever changes his religion, kill him. Like, I really wanted to have this talk at the end of this presentation, because the Muslims who are in the live chat and they are saying that this lie is permissible and this lie is permissible, it's not. and certain statements I wanted you to say it from your mouth, I had to force you to state those statements. It needs to be out that there are inherent issues in the theology and ideology of Islam, that you cannot bring a person into this ideology unless you lie to that person. Whereas when you talk about a Christianity or Christian, uh, whether you call it religion, whether you call it relationship, or whatever you call it, you you cannot lie, because if you lie, you go to hell. Full stop. So you have to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, and then people accept Christianity. On the flip side, you have to lie to bring people to Islam. There is an inherent issue in the ideology and theology of Islam that you have to lie to bring people to this theology.
Amen. Very well put. Truth
Well,
should, you shouldn't need lies to convince someone that Islam is true if it's actually true. I mean, that just sounds ridiculous. I need to lie to convince you that the truth is true? No, if it's the truth, it should stand on its own. You shouldn't need to lie. Yet, you're correct. Muslims do not convince people to join Islam by truth. They convince them to either join based on, lies about scientific miracles, lies about the beauty of the Quran, whatever, or by entirely emotional reasons like a sense of community that have absolutely nothing to do with truth. And I've never really ever heard of anyone who's like, I spent 5 years studying the truth of Islam, and after 5 years, I was fully convinced it was true, and then I became a Muslim. That never happens.
yeah.
Look at
Look,
any of sorry, brother.
now on that point, remember I spoke of that the first people who wanted this were merchants who wanted to know how to create contracts that were fraudulent, basically, right? Deceptive contracts. Now, what people don't realize is Shahada is a contract with Allah. It's technically a contract of sale, right? It's called Baya, right? So Baya is also, they call it pledging allegiance, okay? Taking Baya, right? So this means you pledge allegiance, but you totally surrender yourself to a Muslim leader, okay? Now, so who will guide you to Allah. But understand, it falls under commercial contracts, a contract of sale. It falls under commerce. Oddly enough, when you look it up, it falls under commerce. So, Thaddeus, under what context, and Adam, under what context within a religious context, do we sell our allegiance to a deity? Can you fill in the blank?
Islam.
No, you sell your
Well,
soul to the devil.
Oh, that context. Okay,
yeah.
that's
So,
not in
so
Islam.
Islam is the correct answer.
Yeah. The other yes.
But in Christianity, we have no concept of selling your soul to God, only to
Yeah.
the devil.
And when you break the contract, when you leave Islam, you have broken the contract. And the penalty for breaking the contract is death. You have broken a commercial contract. Do you understand the context here? So taking allegiance to Islam, the Shahada, is a commercial contract. You've sold your soul.
Exactly. As in slavery to Allah. So now you become a proper slave of Allah, full stop, and nothing more and nothing less. By the way, that's why these people who are coming up in the chat and they are trying to divert the topic and all that, because they believe fully with utmost heart that they are serving their God,
Yeah.
who is Allah, and they are serving Him. Hence, they are doing all of these things. The thing is, we gotta break this stupid ideological wall that they have built it in their brains, which is nothing more than stupidity. And seriously, it's really hard certain times to penetrate through this wall to show them, hey, take off these lenses and then look at the world for the first time. At least see what we are trying to tell you. See what we are trying to say. Lies can never be good. Whether even if you say to your wife, even if your wife is hideously ugly, right? Why did you even marry her? If it is such hideously ugly, why did you even marry her? You married her because you liked her. You married her because you liked her. But in Islam, according to the Sharia, which Lloyd has shown last time in the part, you can marry a woman because of 3 cases. And it is in Reliance of Traveler. You can marry in 3 cases. You cannot marry a one which is far below your stature equivalence. This is in Sharia, Reliance of Traveler. Lloyd has shown it in the past. And you cannot, like, if you are a carpenter, you cannot marry. If you are a businessman, you cannot marry a carpenter. So there are some stages, but an imam can marry anyone, right? So beautification is not part of it. But once again, the woman will actually come and say, "Hey, am I beautiful?" Then you look at her, you know she's hideously ugly, and you married her because of her stature. No, you are beautiful. And in the heart, man, this woman is so ugly. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. The last point I want to tell Faisal, who said that in Saudi Arabia they are removing all the hadiths. No, I did a live stream on that. No, they are not removing all the hadiths. All the hadiths are there. They are saying that the hadiths which are wahid and does not reach the criteria of a certain sahih level do not drive the punishment of the law in Saudi Arabia by those hadiths. That's what he said. The majority of the Westerners did not read what he said, did not see what he said, because he was speaking in Arabic and he was using certain terminology. He did not say, I do not accept all the hadiths. No, 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 no. He said, do not drive the punishments from those. And by the way, Lloyd, in your presentation, go to the last page of the Sharia presentation that you have, and you will see the Hanafi school of thought. They do not considerably look for the ijtihad and ijma, and they solely, majorly look for the hadith and the Quran for their jurisprudence. And that is why these people are actually saying that. This is your presentation, right?
The one I
Schools of
sent you.
fiqh,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
School
Okay.
of fiqh. If you go to the last page, you will
Let me
see
do that.
yes. So the Hanbalis and the Wahhabis, the primary followers of Abu Hanifa, Imam Hanbal, they look for what? They look for the exact condition in the Quran and Sunnah, and that's why it is different. Imam Shafi considerably look for the ijtihad as well and ijma as well. They do not. So you have different jurisprudence and the fiqh, and based on that, Muhammad, who is the current leader of the Saudi Arabia, he said, I will not take the sharan punishment, the hadud punishment from this area, from this area. I'll take it from the Quran and Sunnah, and Sunnah, even Sunnah. He said mutawatir hadith, full stop. Yes, definitely, I'll take them. He went to the Sunnah, and not he will not only accept mutawatir Sunnah. He will accept the Sahih hadiths as well. He will accept the Hasan hadiths as well. But Hasan hadiths, he will not use them for the punishments, driving of the punishments. So this is very, very different than most people in the West actually realized it to be.
Excellent. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And I actually have a relevant thing that was asked by Tommy earlier. He said that taqiyya is mentioned in Surah 16:106. I want Lloyd
Yes.
and Thaddeus to talk about that, and I have that, so let me share that. And I was just saving this for an opportune time, and I would say now is definitely an
And
opportune
328
time.
as well. 328 as well. So
Yeah.
there are multiple tafsir of these verses where someone actually abused Muhammad, called him a false prophet, and abused him. And when he came back to Muhammad and he said, "Oh, sorry, Muhammad, I said this and I said that." Muhammad said, "If you are under the threat, say that again. Even denounce Allah, even denounce Muhammad, does not matter. Abuse me, call me any kind of a name if your life is under threat." But what did Bible say? You denounce me here, I'll denounce you there. So Christians will die, but they will not denounce Jesus Christ.
Amen.
That's what Muhammad's teaching is. It's in Quran. So that's why when Lloyd says taqiyya, taqiyya is under threat. It's a Sunni terminology as well, not just Shia terminology. Under threat, you can use taqiyya. But then you have adabul dajjal, which Brother Lloyd was talking about. Hayal and adabul dajjal. This is all Sunni practices, which has nothing to do with under threat of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually kind of unfortunate that taqiyya is so well known among critics because it actually has that more technical term in Islam. So then Muslims can be like, we're not doing that. And then why they are lying their faces off, they're technically correct that they're using a different type of lying.
Open 328 as well. You will see it's very clear over there. 328.
Yep.
Yes.
Let not disbelievers take disbelievers as allies rather than believers. And whoever does that has nothing with Allah except when taking precaution
Except.
Yep,
Except
except.
when taking
There's exceptions to
precaution.
everything. Yeah, also,
إِلَّا أَن
remember,
تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ.
and don't
Right?
forget, anything a Muslim does, as long as his intention is good, the intention was pure. Remember, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. A Muslim can argue, sure, I lied, sure, I did this, sure, I did wrong, sure, I did that, but my intention was good. If the intention is good, then the action is forgiven because God doesn't judge the action. Allah doesn't judge the action. Allah judges the intention. So literally then you've got rules upon rules upon rules and rules that are above the rules. So you have the rule and then you've got the rule that's the exception and the rule that's the exception to that exception and the rule that's the exception to that exception. So if your intention is good, you can do literally anything. Correct, Adam?
Absolutely,
The
brother.
niyyah.
And look,
If the niyyah is good.
in niyyah. Al-amal bil-niyat. Innamal amala bil-niyat. Indeed, your actions are based on your niyat. Your, what do you call, what did you use in English, niyyah? Intention.
Intention.
Your actions are based on your intention. So you can actually do the worst of the worst action, but if your intention is good, you're good. You're actually good. And then you were talking about breaking the faith, but you did not provide the hadith where Muhammad actually broke the oath, even though that he actually swore by Allah. He said, "Wallahi."
Yeah,
In
look, the thing is, I didn't want to rehash material that others have covered already. Like, oh, the Quran says. I don't do that. It's boring. You know, we've all done that.
boring.
Well, we're now in the boring part of the show.
Yeah, I'm here, so I'm the one who actually get the people bored as well. You know. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the boring one. You are the non-boring one.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, guys, you know, I'm joking, right? So I know you guys are just, but you know what I mean. I don't go, well, the Quran 9:5 says. That's not what I do, right? I go into the Islamic law, and this is the final interpretation of Islam.
By the way, your presentation was awesome,
Thank you.
and thank you for responding me right there and then because I was actually live at that time and I needed that so much, and you responded to me. I used that right there and then. It was right on spot. Appreciate it.
I'm sending you a bill later.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. God bless you.
Thanks for
That's
joining,
all I
Adam.
wanted to say. And sorry for boring everyone, but I am the one who bores people.
Oh, no,
No.
make me feel guilty.
I love
No,
having your perspective as a ex-Muslim up here and confirming that this is actually what happens in practice, that we're not just making stuff up like the Faisals of the
Yeah.
world and will say, and maybe certain Western Muslims will actually believe, not knowing what real Islam is like to begin with.
Yeah, no, I've actually spoken to Adam about. So when I do these talks with Al Fadi and with Jay, I did ask Adam if he would be willing to sort of be on standby to come on if need be in the future, because Adam backs up what I say from his enormous knowledge of the sources. You see, so I come from one angle, Adam confirms it from another. It's undeniable. So he's the best person to confirm what I say. And Adam, that stuff about the Hanafi on the last slide, I'm going to have you run me through that again another time. I didn't quite catch it. I will listen again to the show later, but you know, I didn't. I'm going to need you to run me through that because.
Sure, we'll do that. Take care,
Sure.
brother. God bless you all. By the way, whether you like me or not, it doesn't matter. Talk to the wall.
Thanks for joining, Adam. And everyone be sure to subscribe to Adam Seeker's channel. If you haven't already, you can find that just by searching for Adam Seeker on YouTube.
And it's a sin if you don't subscribe to my channel, FYI.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, I'm subscribed, so I'm
Perfect.
covered.
You are
Me
not
too.
a sinner. Okay, you guys are not a sinner, so you guys are good.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
We'll wrap up here in a second, but just a couple other things from the audience I wanted to bring up. First, this highly important question: how is Thaddeus pronounced? I just told you, Thaddeus. But no worries if you mispronounce it. I don't really care about that kind of thing. And Georgian says Adam is Sahih ex-Muslim. To go along with Daif Muslim, the Hadith collection, we have Sahih ex-Muslim. This
Yeah.
This is much earlier, and I know that Karen already got an answer to it, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. Does Lloyd have a YouTube channel? Yes, he does. You can search for his name. It's also linked in the video description.
I'll just drop that in here.
And I definitely encourage everyone to subscribe to Lloyd because he is doing a lot of great work here on my channel, but also on his own and on numerous other people's channels as well. He's really getting around, really spreading the message, really making an impact. So definitely support him in any way you can. And then this will be the final comment unless something comes up in the next couple minutes here. From Tommy, this was said earlier, but I think it bears repeating. I feel Christians are at a disadvantage because Muslims had 1,400 years of expertise in taqiyya. It's difficult for many Christians to handle the deception as Christians are not used to it. And I think that this is spot on. You know, we tend to approach Islam as if it's like Christianity, but with a different scriptures. I mean, we believe it's false. We believe that their scriptures aren't true. But we tend to approach Islam the exact same way we approach Christianity. And when we do that, we're not competing at the right level. We're not competing at the level that really reaches Muslims. You know, as long as we're playing the Quran says game, we're only going to reach a small percentage of Muslims. As long as we're playing the you're lying game, pointing out their lies and whatnot, we're only going to reach a small percentage because what they value is not the same things as what we value. They say they value the Quran, and I'm sure they believe that in their heart, and they say they value the sayings of Muhammad, and I'm sure they believe that. But what they don't read them themselves, at least not in a language they understand generally. Instead, they rely on the authorities, the scholars. They rely on their imams, their teachers. And that's what's really important to them, is that their imams are seen in a good light, that their scholars, their authorities, their Muhammad hijabs, who is not a real authority but is looked up to, that all these people are not refuted, that they're not shown to be untrue. That's why when you post a video, say, on Uthman lying about putting a footnote in the body of a text and making it say something that the text didn't actually say, that's why they go ballistic when you post that kind of stuff. Now, to us, that's just like, oh, Uthman's an idiot and made a mistake. But to them, that's like really strong questioning the reason for Islam. You want to add anything to that, Lloyd?
Well, you're bringing shame upon Islam. Remember, they have to. That's slander. That's tale-bearing. Remember, slander is not telling false stories about someone. In Islam, slander is defined as telling something about someone that is true but embarrassing. Right? Remember, in Western law, to slander someone is to lie about them. In Islam, to slander someone is to tell the truth about them, but a truth that they would find embarrassing. That's a complete opposite, and therefore it is slander. To say that Muhammad diddled a 9-year-old, or diddled the 6-year-old, sorry, he actually, remember, he was fiddling with her from the time she was 6. He might have consummated at 9, but he was diddling her at 6. To say that is an embarrassment, and therefore it is slander. It's true, it's embarrassing, and therefore you must be rejected, you must be denied, and they must defend Islam against the truth.
Absolutely. I'll just close out with a couple humorous comments here. Adam said to subscribe to his channel and you'll get to enjoy more boring parts of my beautiful
I didn't call
voice.
him boring. That's I didn't call him boring.
We're just having some fun here, and you said that in the chat. But then Philip clarified for us. He said that Adam is boring. Adam
That's
is boring
what I meant.
holes
Into
the standard narrative.
I just misspoke. Sorry about that, Adam. That's what I meant.
So head over to Adam's channel, subscribe for his boring of holes into the narrative. Head over to Lloyd's channel, subscribe to his channel for his utter destruction of the standard narrative. And be sure to subscribe here as well. Be sure to like and share this video because we want this to get to as many people as possible. Most importantly, we want Muslims to see this. We want Muslims to see how their sources teach lying. The type of Muslims who do dawah, they know this stuff. The type of Muslims who are moms, they know this stuff. But the common Muslim, they've absorbed it, but it's one thing to kind of have subconsciously absorbed it, and it's another to see it in black and white and to say, my religion really does teach lying. Am I okay with that? Or does that strike me as a contradiction between what truth should be? Truth should be truth. If it's true, you shouldn't need lies to support it.
Yeah.
And if you need lies to support it, then what you're in is a political system based on power, not the true religion. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great week. God bless.
God bless, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.